Good morning. The hearing board is in session. Today's Thursday, June 29th, 2017. We're meeting in the hearing room at AQMD headquarters in Diamond Bar, and the time is 9 a.m. by my watch. We have one matter today. That's SCAQMD versus Veterans Administration, Greater Los Angeles Healthcare System, case 5895-4. This is a petition for an order for abatement. Who's representing the executive officer?
Daphne Seifert, executive officer.
Thank you. And representing the VA, Veterans Administration?
Good morning. Daniel McFeely with the Office of General Counsel for the Department of Veterans Affairs, representing the Greater Los Angeles Veterans Healthcare System.
Thank you. Would you spell your name for me, please?
First name is Daniel. I'm sorry. First name is Daniel, D-A-N-I-E-L. Last name is McFeely, M-C-F-E-E-L-Y.
Good. Okay, those will be testifying. Please rise to be sworn in. Raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Before we
Senator.
proceed, I'd like to announce that I'm a disabled veteran, 80%. I've received services at the facility in West Los Angeles, and I have an open mind, and I think I can hear the case fairly.
Okay. Any objection, Ms. Sue?
No objection.
Mr. McFeely?
No objection.
Very good. We'll proceed. Oh, doctor?
I was an endocrinology fellow at the University of Washington, and my salary did come for 3 years from the VA system there. But I've reviewed this. I think I can give an unbiased review of this problem.
That salary was current or in the past?
No, 1968 to 1971.
The prior century?
It wasn't enough.
Ms. Sue, any objection?
No objection.
Mr. McFeely?
No objection.
Very good. Ms. Sue, opening.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. We are here today for a stipulated order of abatement. The Veterans Administration Los Angeles Healthcare System is a Title V facility that provides health care for veterans. They are located in Los Angeles, California. They currently are operating 5 dryers without a valid permit in violation of Rule 3002. Rule 3002 requires that the facility obtain a Title V permit or permit revision before constructing or operating new equipment. The VA attempted to secure a permit revision for the dryers, but the applications were rescinded because the dryers would not meet the emissions limits of Rule 1147. The VA has agreed to enter into a stipulated order of abatement whereby it will permanently cease use of all 5 dryers by August 15th. They will be submitting permit applications to replace all 5 dryers. These applications are not at issue in this matter. Today we have here Mr. Darren Ha. He's an inspector with the AQMD, and he will testify regarding the rule and the violations. I understand respondent has a witness that can testify to how respondent will meet its laundry needs after permanently ceasing use of its 5 dryers. And I also wanted to make 2 corrections to the proposed findings. I've already shown them to Mr. McFeely. On page 2 of the proposed findings, paragraph 4, line 16, after maximum heating rating of 3 million BTU per hour, I would like to include the words "for each burner." And similarly, on line 22 of that same page, after 1 million BTU per hour, I would also like to include the words "for each burner." Thank you.
Thank you. Opening, Mr. McFeely.
Good morning. The VA Greater Los Angeles Healthcare System provides health care to former members of the U.S. military who are residents of Southern California, many of whom are indigent or have sustained physical injuries while serving our nation. It's a large hospital system. It's one of the largest hospital systems here in Southern California. I have with me today Ms. Carrie Blackwell. Ms. Blackwell is the Assistant Director at the VA Medical Center for Greater Los Angeles. So she's responsible for the facilities management of the campus that's at issue here at the notice of violation. The VA is here to respond today to notice of violation P 62915 regarding the operation of laundry dryers without a permit. Today you'll hear testimony from Ms. Blackwell that discusses the actions that we've taken since we've received notice of violation to remediate the current situation. And you'll also hear testimony that talks about how we got to this point and the improvements that we put in place to make sure this doesn't happen again. We're here today to ask the board to endorse the stipulated order of abatement that will allow us the opportunity to perform an orderly shutdown of these dryers, and we're confident that that can be accomplished within the next 6 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sue?
I'm Mr. Darren Ha. Please state and spell your name for the record.
Darren Ha, first name Darren, last name Ha, H-A.
And did you take the oath this morning?
Yes.
And what is your title here at the district?
Air Quality Inspector,
And how long have you worked in this position?
about 2 years now.
And please briefly describe your responsibilities.
So I conduct inspections of industrial equipment that have emissions.
And have you reviewed the petition in this matter?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the respondent?
Yes.
And how did you become familiar with the respondent?
I conducted an inspection on March 3rd, 2017. And that's how I'm familiar with the respondent.
And what type of facility is the VA, the respondent?
The facility is a veterans healthcare system consisting of multiple buildings.
Okay. And are you familiar with District Rule 3002?
Yes.
And what does the rule require?
It requires the equipment to be permitted to be constructed, modified, or operate.
Okay. And did you observe the 5 laundry tumblers at the facility?
Yes. During my inspection, I observed all 5 laundry tumblers on site, and at least one of them were in operation.
And these are the tumblers at issue in this petition?
Yes.
And do you know if respondent operate the other 4 tumblers?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And have you spoken to anyone regarding the operation of these tumblers?
Yes, I've spoken with Mr. Joe Olson, who's the environmental engineer at the VA.
And what did he tell you about the operation of these tumblers?
He stated that they were on site and they were operational
Okay.
in use. Yes.
Did the facility have a permit to construct these tumblers?
No, the permits were submitted. I mean, the permit applications were submitted, but they were then rescinded by the facility.
Okay. And does the facility have a permit to operate these tumblers?
No, not during the inspection. No.
And does Rule 3002 require the facility to have a permit to construct and operate these tumblers?
Yes.
Okay. And those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. McFeely, questions for Mr. Ha?
No questions for Mr. Ha.
Board members? Senator?
When you visited the facility, and were you were aware of the notice of violation that was issued in 2016?
Yes.
Were you aware of that violation?
Yes.
Okay. Did you take notice whether or not they had ever been cited previously for any violation of operating these tumblers?
I only knew that they were in violation during the previous inspection. I then discussed it with my supervisor and Daphne, and then we discussed that they were already discussing an order, a stipulation then, so no action was needed at that time.
So, as far as you know, the Veteran Administration never had a permit to operate that site, this equipment.
For these dryers, no.
Right. Never.
Yeah, I during my inspection, they weren't permitted during my inspection, so
No documentation to show anything.
no.
Thank you.
Ms. Byrd?
Do you know when the permits were applied for and when they were rescinded?
Let's see here. They were submitted in July of 2015 and between July and August of 2015. And then they were rescinded January of 2016.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Any other witnesses for the district?
No.
Mr. McFeely?
Good morning, Ms. Blackwell. Can you state your full name for the record, please? State and spell your name for the record.
Carrie Blackwell. First name is Kari. Last name is Blackwell, Blackwell.
And Ms. Blackwell, where do you work?
I work at the VA Greater Los Angeles Healthcare System,
And what is your job title at the VA?
Assistant Director,
And how long have you served in that role?
since September of 2016.
Can you, in general, for the board, describe your role as the Assistant Director?
My current role has me responsible for most of our facility services, so that would be emergency management, safety, engineering, police, environmental management service, which the laundry plant and its functions fall underneath.
So you are, within the management structure, what is your role with respect to managing the laundry facilities specifically?
It reports directly to me.
Are you a person with knowledge about the VA's response to the notice of violation that's the subject of today's hearing?
I am.
And are you a person who's authorized to speak on behalf of the Greater Los Angeles VA healthcare system?
Yes.
In your words, can you summarize what you understand to be the reason for the notice of violation?
We had 5 unpermitted dryers operating in our laundry plant.
And can you explain to the board why is the VA operating a laundry facility?
Our VA facility serves almost 100,000 veterans in the Southern California area. So in order to provide safe, clean, sterile linens to those 100,000 veterans laying their heads on approximately 500 pillows every day, we've got to make sure we have sterile linens for them that are processed efficiently and available at all times.
So is laundry facility operation important to the Greater Los Angeles healthcare
Extremely
system?
important.
And why is it important?
Again, without laundry facilities, you don't have sheets, pillows, pajamas, socks, towels. It's absolutely critical to the running of a medical center.
And if the laundry facility were to unexpectedly shut down, what impact would that have on patient care and operations at the healthcare
You
center?
cannot run an inpatient medical facility without laundry.
You had stated earlier that you're familiar with the notice of violation that's the subject of today's hearing. How does the VA view this notice of violation? Can you speak to the management response to it?
We take this incredibly seriously. We are a partner in this community. We've partnered with the district. There's a site on our campus for the Air Quality Management District. We've been partners through the past, working together in the future. And as a member of this community, when we have to ensure that we are working to provide clean air to the residents of Southern California, because we're all in this together.
And does the VA have a plan to address the notice of violation?
We do.
And can you explain to the board what that plan is, what the game plan is?
Our game plan is, we have currently made operational changes in order to shut down 2 dryers already. By August 15th, we will shut down the remaining 3, and we will go on to contract laundry services. So we've already secured the funds. We're going to actually sign that contract by the end of this week for those laundry services. And we've also secured funding, and we're moving forward with a construction project to replace all equipment in our laundry plant.
So is it fair to say that the VA's made an investment in addressing this?
A very large investment, yes.
And so the plan that you described, who's responsible for overseeing that plan?
I am.
And can you very briefly talk about the progress the VA's made towards completing its plan for remediation?
Correct. So as I stated, we have shut down the 2 dryers with plans by August 15th to shut down the remaining 3. We want to ensure that the company that we've used to contract is ready to take over our workload. We do operate or process 3.3 million pounds of laundry every year. So we need to ensure that they're ready to take on that load. So that's why we've given the date of August 15th. We also, proposals for the construction project and the new equipment were due June 16th. So we are reviewing those proposals and hope to have that contract awarded soon as well.
So how confident are you that the VA is going to be able to meet its proposed deadline of August 15th?
I am incredibly confident.
And why are you so confident?
Because I'm going, like I said, we've already been able to shut down 2. With the award of the contract this week, we will be able to transition all 3 dryers offline by August 15th.
Has the VA conducted any kind of a review to determine how these non-permitted dryers were able to be put into operation in the laundry facility?
We did do a review. As a healthcare facility, we're constantly looking at quality improvement. How did we get here? What was the root cause? And so our review did, from what we can tell, the VA being a large governmental entity, the procurement of laundry equipment is done actually outside of the state of California. So, and that office actually procures all laundry equipment for all VA facilities across the country. And we, from what we can tell, they were not aware of the stricter requirements here in Southern California. And at the time, initially, there were smaller dryers that maybe didn't require a permit. So when they replaced the dryers, it didn't look as though they were familiar with the local requirements. So our way forward now is my involvement and our environmental engineers' involvement with this procurement. We are working closely with that procurement office to ensure that they are aware of our specific requirements here in Southern California and that we do require permits for the construction and then the operation of these. So that will not again happen.
And is the local facility taking any particular steps in terms of oversight of new procurements?
Correct. My involvement is previously the management of the laundry plant was not at the local LA level. Now that it is, my involvement is critical so that they are aware of our requirements. And so my involvement as well as Mr. Olson's will ensure that this does not happen.
So you had mentioned that the VA now has an environmental compliance engineer. Can you talk a little bit about what his role will be with respect to new equipment that's not just laundry equipment, but new equipment in general that gets installed at the VA campus?
All equipment that does have emissions is all procurement. Even the statements of work prior to being sent to our contracting entity are reviewed by Mr. Olson, and then he reviews the proposals that are submitted to ensure that they are meeting all requirements as stipulated by the district. Then he is closely involved with the engineers and the contractors who will be installing and testing the equipment prior to its use.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Ms. Sue?
No questions.
Ms. Blackwell, do you know when the current equipment was installed?
From our records, approximately in 2007.
Thank you. Any other questions, board members? Ms. Bruce?
Do you know if there has been any attempt to review other equipment at the facility that might have been purchased as what were the dryers outside of the state of California to make sure that they also are compliant?
Yes, actually, that's something that this notice of violation actually happened very soon after my first day. So that was one of my first questions is, what other equipment do we need to be worried about? So Joe and I did review all, equipment to ensure, and actually he told me even at the time he identified this, he was the one who identified the lack of the permit back in 2015. He said he even did it then, but I said, let's do another review. Let's keep, let's ensure everything that is on this campus, which is large, 388 acres. Let's ensure everything is properly permitted and that we're following all local and federal regulations.
And what was the result of that review?
This was really our only, when I talked with Joe at that time, this was the one.
Great. And then just one other quick question. Can you quickly just walk us through the timeline of how, from the NOV back in 2016 to the present, what was done to move us forward to the plan of action you now have?
So actually even prior to the NOV is when we started our plan forward. The federal procurement process in the VA is very lengthy. So as soon as we realized that we were not going to be able to permit our dryers, that's when we began the process to secure funding for both the new equipment and a contingency services contract. So that began in 2015. So when we got the notice of violation, we were already on our way to remedying this.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Doctor, and then Senator.
Just for the record, how many beds do you have?
It's approximately 500. I was trying to do the count this morning on my own drive-in. Inpatient medical surgical beds, approximately 200. We have about 300 domiciliary beds. And then nursing home or community living center, approximately about 150.
Yeah, because you mentioned that you were in charge of the health care of 100,000 veterans. 5 dryers wouldn't accommodate them, but maybe 500 beds would.
Correct, yeah. The 100,000 veterans, those are seeking inpatient and outpatient care.
Right, thank you.
Senator.
Your schedule. August 15th, you're going to take 2 dryers out of service.
3.
3 dryers out of service. And how would you make up for meeting the requirement for cleaning and sheets and towels and socks, and pillowcases and so on?
We're going to be sending that to a contractor.
To complement the 2 that are still being serviced.
All 5 will be out of service by August
By when?
August 15th.
All 5?
Yes, sir.
If I may, Mr. Holden, 2 of the dryers have already been taken out of service and locked out. So there are only 3 that are currently operating.
Okay. Have you heard of the term government furnished equipment before?
Yes, sir.
Is there any place else in the country where these dryers could be obtained, that are already in the government's possession, that would meet the qualifications in California?
I can't speak.
Have you checked?
So we are purchasing new dryers to replace all 5 of these.
You know how difficult it is to have the government buy anything.
Yes, I do.
And they go through this bid process, and it could be a long time before the purchase is finalized. You understand all that? So then how can you be sure about the dates and timeline you're going to give us?
So the award of the services contract will be finalized this week. So I am absolutely, even if we don't have our equipment and our construction contract, we're still shutting down the dryers.
And you have your contracted services outside. You already know that there's a fixed budget for health care for veterans. And I'm sure a specific amount of money has been allocated for your facility. You think you can find that additional funds?
We already secured it back in 2015.
And you've identified it and put it in the budget?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
You're very welcome. And thank you for your service.
Aye, aye.
Ms. Byrd.
Since you have this wonderful timeline, I was going to say I'm assuming, but I don't want to say I'm assuming. It sounds as if you may have this actually in place prior to August, that everything will be shut down, even though this is the date you have, because your contract is secured this week.
It's quite possible.
Okay.
But I don't, the August 15 date was, we are incredibly confident in that date.
Right.
But it is possible that we could transition earlier.
Okay, because the contract that you mentioned that would be confirmed this week, that's the contract for the company that's
For the
taking
services,
okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Doctor.
Yeah. Can you tell me, you're going to remove these 5 eventually, or by August 15th. Are you going to replace them?
Yes.
And the company you have the contract will be operating them? What will they be used for?
So we are, so we have 2 different contracts we're getting. One is for the services and the other is for the construction and the equipment. When we replace them with the new equipment, it will be used, again, actually we're reducing down to 4 dryers, and it will be for laundry use.
I see. And these will be the limit, okay. I'm not worried about the limits in the permit, but these are run 24/7, is that correct?
No,
They're not?
no.
They run 12 hours, 8 hours?
I can't speak to the exact schedule, but it starts really early in the morning and usually shuts down early afternoon. But I don't know the exact times. But no, they do not run 24 hours.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Brissette?
So you just testified that you're incredibly confident in the August 15th, so there's no possibility of it slipping back?
Not that date, no.
Okay, so then, I was looking at the proposed order, and the only thing I'd like to see is the final, the date by which we retain jurisdiction. I just wanted to see if we could put an actual date on it rather than final compliance, because there's one condition that is a few days after, and that's merely your notice that final compliance has been achieved. Would you have any objection to a date instead that we retain jurisdiction through August 30th, 2017?
The VA has no objection to that.
And Ms. Sue?
We have no objection.
Okay, thank you.
This is not relevant to the issue before us, but I'm curious, how often is your facility inspected by a district inspector?
I cannot speak to that.
Okay, it's quite all right. Any other questions? Any other witnesses? Mr. McFeely?
No other witnesses for the department.
Is there any member of the public who wishes to testify in this matter? I see none. Closing, Ms. Sue.
Hello, the VA is in violation of Rule 3002 by operating unpermitted laundry tumblers. It has already taken steps to come into compliance and has agreed to permanently cease use of all 5 tumblers by August 15, 2017. We request that the board enter the stipulated order as requested. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McFeely, closing.
Yes, the Department of Veterans Affairs, acknowledges the importance of our compliance with air quality standards. We believe we've made a good faith effort to diligently address the matter that's before the board today, and we've demonstrated progress towards that end. We would also like to renew our request that the board endorse a stipulated order of abatement with the modifications that have been discussed at the hearing today.
Thank you. Discussion, board members? Ms. Brusek?
I can certainly find good cause to grant the stipulated order for abatement with the modifications as it's been presented today. We have heard very credible testimony of the reason why this occurred and the bureaucracy of a federal government agency, but also of the very important steps to ensure that this does not occur again, which is really good news, aside from actually ceasing the use of these dryers as quickly as possible, which that's why I asked the question about what steps were taken, and that steps were already being taken prior to the NOV was also great to hear as well. And I believe that they are moving as rapidly as possible, and by the time we're hearing it, that certainly is a very quick date by which these 3 remaining dryers will be taken out of service, and to just ensure that this doesn't happen again, and also that we can have a degree of certainty, I think, that there is nothing else at the facility that might be in violation of any district rules. So with that and with the obvious need for these dryers until a contract can be secured, I can find good cause.
Other comments? Ms. Byrd?
I was just going to say that I agree with Ms. Prusak, as well as it's even possible that they may be shut down even sooner based on the movement that's been taking place with the VA and their contract.
Senator?
I'm very impressed when the facility learned of their fact that they were not in compliance. They were aggressive in terms of trying to remedy the problem. And it does serve so many veterans at that facility, and their health problems are of concern to all of us. And the grace period that's been requested certainly should be granted, and I'm prepared to grant via vote to do that. It's a terrible sight. If you ever get a chance, visit the VA hospital in West LA. Visit the VA hospital in West LA. You go back to Second World War veteran, which I'm one, Korean, Vietnam, and so on. And I got to tell you, those guys are giving up a lot. Yeah. Their wheelchairs and crutches, and man, take a look. So I'm supporting you 100%.
Doctor?
Congratulations on your alacrity. When I was a fellow, things moved very, very slowly.
Following up on the senator's comments, I think there's hardly anyone who has not in some way been affected by the wars and what it did to some of our citizens. I also wanted to comment that the respondent demonstrated its commitment to clean air by not only seeking to comply with new equipment, but in the interim, going out and finding a service so that allowed them to shut down the current non-compliant equipment, and that's very much appreciated. I'll entertain a motion. Ms. Prusak?
In the matter of South Coast Air Quality Management District versus U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs Greater Los Angeles Healthcare System, case number 5895-4, I move that we grant the proposed stipulated order for abatement, findings and decision with the following changes. On page 2, line 16, after 3 MMBTU per hour, insert for each burner, and in the same manner do so as well on line 22, same words after the same words. And on page 3, the last line, line 27 in condition 10, it would now read, the hearing board shall retain jurisdiction over this matter until August 30th, 2017. And that is on good cause, as was stated by all members of the board, and that completes my motion.
I'll second the motion. Discussion on the motion. Doctor, how do you vote?
In favor.
Ms. Byrd?
Yes.
Senator?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Any other business board members? We're adjourned.